Hey guys, it's Kip here from KDC Marketing, and in today's video I want to show you how you can use different sections to create different looks and layouts, like this section here in the hero. This one uses a repeater, and then this one uses a combination of things. So I just want to show you how you can use some different layout tools inside of Wix Studio to get the look that you're looking for. So this first hero section here is a grid. So if I create a new section here, I can try this grid layout, and these are good for lots of different things. You might have a more traditional layout like a 2-column or a 3-column grid, but you might also have something like this that's more of a collage or like a bento box grid or something like that. So here's another one that we could do, and this is a grid layout similar to this one. And then we could add an image here, a video. We could add a variety of things. So all I would do to design this is just add some padding here to my section grid. I'm just going to give it 3% across the board, and then that will give me some space. So then I could add in some quick add elements. So I'm just going to go over here to my add elements button. I'm going to add an image on this one. I'm going to add a video on this one, and I'm stretching these, and I might add a title to this one and a title to this one. So this might be my grid layout, and then I could also customize my grid here, my collage, and give some gaps if I wanted to between the different grids. So now there's 12 pixels between. So depending on what layout you're trying to go for, grid might be the best option here. So this is grid, and then this section is a repeater. And so a repeater is good if you have something that has a similar layout that needs to repeat itself. So like this one, this is just a simple stack. On top there's an icon inside of my stack, and then we have a heading, a paragraph, and a button. But if I make a change to this, if I delete the button, then it deletes everywhere. So these are really good if you have a repeating section. And if you look at this, in essence, this can look like a grid. This might look like a 6-column grid here, but the repeater is the right tool to use because it's going to repeat the content. So you can find the repeater here in the quick add, or you can go to layout tools, and here's section grid, the one we were just looking at, but you also have repeater here. So these are just kind of some blank repeaters that you could use. There's also some slideshow repeaters that are already designed, so that might be an option. So if I wanted to do something like this to create this look, I would just add a section here. I'm going to add a repeater in using the quick add, and then I'm going to add some padding to my section just like we did before. I'm going to do 3% so that it matches the other sections. And then all I'm doing is stretching this, and then I'm adding some items. So now I have 6 items, and I'm starting to get the layout that you see up here. And then I'm just adding a stack to it. So I'm adding one of these preset stacks. I'm aligning it to center, and then I added an icon. So I just went to the shape right here. You can also find it in decorative. You could find icons in here. But on quick add, if you just go to a basic shape, you can attach it inside of your stack. And then I would shrink this down a bit, and then align my stack here so that the items align and they're spaced evenly. So I would align it here. They're spaced at 16 pixels apart or something like that. And then I would add some padding to my item. So I'm just trying to show you really quickly how I'm building these layouts. And again, I'm adding some padding. You could add more padding. Not 50%, 5%, and 10% maybe. So I might add something like that. And then you could change out this content. You could make your stack a little bit wider so that you have this kind of 6-column grid section here. So that's how you can build that one. And as we can see, these icons are a little smaller, so I would just need to match these icon sizes, but it's pretty close. So it looks like it's about 44 pixels. So yeah, we would just bring this down to something a little smaller. Okay, so now moving on to this section. So this is a combination of a few of these layout tools together. So I'm going to add a new section. So this is the repeater, and then it's the CSS grid. So what I did here is I just added some padding to my section, and I'm going to put it in percentages. So I'm just doing 3%, and then I'm going to quick add a repeater, and this time instead of cards, I'm going to use a list. So now I have lists so that it's going kind of more long ways. So I'm going to stretch this so that it fills my section here. And then on top of my repeater, I'm going to go into the layout tools, and then under advanced, there's this CSS grid. So I'm going to grab the CSS grid and attach it inside of my repeater. So you can see there's these 3 little grid boxes. I'm going to stretch this. And so now every single repeater has these 3 grid boxes inside of them. So every single item inside of my repeater has these 3 grid boxes. So now all I did to create that look is I just added an image here. I stretched it, and because it's a repeater, it's doing it across the board. Then I added in a stack here. I took out the button for this stack, and then I just kind of dragged this out a little bit so it was a bit longer, and then aligned this to center, and then I added a button here, and I made my button a bit bigger. So I made it bigger like this. I changed the text to be bigger as well. And then I think I even went bigger than that, maybe even a heading 6. Yeah, and then I did corner radius of 50 pixels and then aligned this to center. So now I'm starting to get this repeater look where it's a list with these big buttons, which is kind of cool. And then I just added some images to these. These were just the default images inside of Wix Studio to get these kind of really fancy hotel looking repeater items. And these might not be the exact images I added. Maybe they are, we'll find out in a second. But that's how I was able to get this kind of repeater and CSS grid look. So this is a combination of the two. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish with your website, you might want to use one or another or a different layout tool based on what your objective is. So this one was just the section grid, and it was a collage. So if you go back into our add elements and our layout tools, this first one was section grid. And you have a lot of good preset options here. And you can also build kind of like these custom grids. You can add cells to grids if you need to. The next one that we did was just a repeater down here. So this is just a repeater. I added a few more items, and this repeater is the cards type repeater. So you have other options here inside of the repeaters of what you can do, and you can further customize them too on the layout side. So you could say items per row is 3 right now. I could increase this to 4, or I could decrease it to 2. So you can customize these repeaters, and in a way they kind of become column layouts, at least these card repeater types. And then down here, so we rebuilt the section here, and then down here is that repeater, but then it has a CSS grid within it. So it has a repeater here that's going across, and then inside of the repeater we have these 3 grid boxes that are the CSS grid. So there's lots of different ways you can lay out your sections, and it really takes some time to get used to, hey, what should I use here? Should I use a grid? Should I use a repeater? Should I use a combination of layout tools? And these aren't even all the layout tools that Wix has to offer. There are others in here inside of this layout section. You have these multi-state boxes, you have tabs, you have accordions, you can do tables. Stacks is just a way to combine items together. And we didn't even look at flex boxes. And so if you want to learn more about flex boxes and CSS grids, then you can kind of hover over these different things. But they can make it so your layouts can become more unique and can become different. So just wanted to showcase that sometimes it is worth the time to think through what kind of section you need to build. What does it need to do? How does it need to function? And that can drive what type of layout tool that you use inside of Wix Studio. Because all these layout tools have their benefits, their strengths, and their weaknesses, and some are good for some types of sections, and some are better for other types of sections. But the ones that are most common are the section grids and the repeaters. And then I was just showing you kind of a little bit more of an advanced version here that you could take a repeater and add a CSS grid on top of it. So go ahead and test these out. If you're new to Wix Studio, it's good to get familiar with these different tools and how they interact and how they work, and to check how they work on different devices too, on the different breakpoints. So on tablet and on mobile, what do they look like? How do they function? So like this repeater is already been optimized for mobile. This one hasn't, but you can see what an optimized version looks like. This section has been optimized for mobile, looks super great. This one that I built hasn't been optimized for mobile yet. So that's an important piece too, is making sure that these get optimized. This one hasn't been optimized at all, the third one, so that's something I would need to go in and do and make sure it's going to work. And it would probably become, instead of going this way column, it would go top to bottom or something like that. So you can customize the CSS grid as well and make sure that's well optimized. So those are important considerations too on how the different sections function, but that should be a good starting point for layout tools and which one do I use in which scenario. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next video.